Hello and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to day 4 of Booktober, where I'm posting one video every single day. Most of them will be spooky, a lot of them won't be, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. If you're watching this, thank you for hanging out with me. This is going to be my September wrap-up. Oh boy, howdy. I honestly am surprised that I didn't read more. That's shocking for me. I really thought that I was gonna go so balls to the walls, but I was tame and I held myself back from over exerting too much energy into reading. I also was co-hosting 2 readathons in the month of September, so it's probably for the best that I kind of took it easy and just chilled a little bit. But I was co-hosting the romance readathon, the Phantom of the Opera edition. It was so much fun. I was co-hosting with my good friend Joe. We had a blast. Our team, the stagehands, incredible. I know we didn't win, but I am so proud of everybody. Nonetheless, it was incredible. I just watching everybody come together to solve riddles was beautiful. Everyone was so talented and smart, and I could never. I'm so proud of them. It was great. Maggie did such a wonderful job putting everything together. And then I also was a co-host for the I was on Team Werewolf for the Mystic Readathon, hosted by Nell, and she did an incredible job. There were cards that you had to play for each round. There was bonus prompts to get you extra points. There was some sabotaging. It was a lot of fun. I really liked my team. We were the werewolves. I was saying ow woo everywhere I could. And there was also questions of the days and just a lot of fun community sprints. There was a dance and a game night, and it's so cool. I love seeing communities come together. And I also, of course, had some incredible co-hosts. We had Rainy Blue Reads, we had Kita, and we had my good friend Meredith, who's also hosting Bookemon, which I'm yearly assisting with. And they were a blast to work with. Such good energy and vibes and just good, clear, honest communication. Myself included and a couple other of my hosts. We were kind of going through it in September. Events kept happening. It was a tough month, but these 2 readathons, seriously, they did so much for me, and just getting me in the spirit of reading and wanting to socialize with people. Sprinting again has been so much fun. It's just okay, that all said, I had a wonderful time. I'm so thankful for these opportunities. I'm so glad that I was able to do both. It was a blast. With that said, I read 24 books, and I wish that I read more to say it was 25. I was so close to finishing a book, but because a lot of these books are going to be in Booktober content, I'm actually not going to talk about them yet. So you'll see them in upcoming videos, and then I will try to also recap them in my October wrap-up, just for the point of getting people to watch videos. If you don't know my thoughts, you might not click on them, so... With that said, let's jump into a couple stats. So like I said, I read 24 books, I read 2,310 pages, and listened to 76 hours and 45 minutes of audiobooks, which is a good amount. That's a good amount. I've already talked about the readathons that I participated in, but I kind of chilled with the book clubs. I read 2. I read Underneath and The God of the Woods for both the 4B's book club hosted by Aaliyah on the Library Dwellers channel. One of my favorite book club discussions I think I've ever been a participant in, and also for Literally Dead book club, Kayla's, which will be this coming weekend when you see this video. It's, I think, Sunday, and Allie from Allie Does Read, she's gonna be on there. I'm so excited. Her and I, fangirling our dreams away. I'm so excited for her. I'm really wanting to talk about this book, though. We'll get there. With those little tidbits said, I will leave a little bit more stats in the comments if you're interested and you want to know just a little bit more. I'll also have a cute little graph on the screen with more specific stats if you are curious, but let's just jump right in because 24 books to talk about. Okay, a little bit less, but still a lot of books to talk about. Oh goodness. Okay, the first book that I read was called Blood Circus by Camilla Victor, I'm not sure, but I was really excited. If you don't know, I love circus books. There's been a 2-year-long vlog in the process where I just keep reading circus books, and I'm having a really hard time just cutting it off because so many of the clips are so old now that it's that's not me. So I don't know if you'll ever see that video, but that video has been in progress for quite some time. I was excited to pick up this blood circus. That sounds so intriguing. That sounds right up my alley. Of course I want to read about a blood circus. Especially from, like, an author who was born to performers in a circus and, like, was a part of it as, like, growing up and, like, as a job. I was really excited to get, like, some circus lore. And that's not what happened. This is a dystopian story where we are following a young girl who is desensitized. The society has taught her so many things that, like, that is her truth. That's what she knows. But unfortunate events lead her on this discovery of what's really going on. Now, this little compound is like, the humans out there, they're not really humans anymore. They're kind of more like on the monsters. They're savages. They're terrible, terrible people. And they'll eat you. So don't leave your house. Like, don't go outside our little border. What happens? She ends up outside her border. And her pet wolf, who's not an official pet, but they had, like, this special bond, gets murked by people trying to kill her because they think she has magic or something. And so she escapes, she gets away, and then she's snatched by the people who she's been warned about all her life, and is entered into a game of deadly trials and tribulations. Oh my goodness. So, oof, what a time. So basically, we see these trials, we see her connecting to the other girls. Only girls are entered into this. There is one trans character who I thought was, like, a beautiful story. I liked the mention, but it's gory, it's gruesome, it's kind of sad. And then once you get out of the trials and she starts learning more about herself, that's when, like, the book took a turn that I just, like, stopped caring at all about what was happening. I didn't care about the society and, like, breaking the rules. I'm not a huge dystopian fan. It's not my bread and butter. It's not the genre that I gravitate towards. I do like trials and books, so I enjoyed that. They were spooky at times. Some of them were, like, super tame and chill, and others were, like, not it. So, for a debut, I don't think this was perfect or great. It came out in 2023. It wasn't a favorite. I gave it 3 stars. It was just, like, a very mid book. I can definitely see where improvements could happen in the future, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a series or not. It doesn't seem like it got picked up widely. I haven't seen anybody else talk about it or read it, so I don't know if we'll get a sequel, but there's definitely, like, room for it if the author decided to. Next one, controversial take by all of my friends and trusted booktubers who I have full faith in, which worries me a little bit for myself, but When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. This is a hard sell, and I completely 5,000% understand why people don't like it, and honestly, I'm surprised that it even worked for me, but I read this for my reading the, like, Goodreads best books of the year so far for 2024, and this was my romantasy pick, and she's chunky. She's a lot. I had the audiobook, God bless. There's just something about it that really worked for me. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm obsessed with specifically Dropouts, Dimension 20, D&D, or Death to Divinity, or Dungeons, Dice, and Everything Nice, which are 2, like, not continued series. But God, I love watching D&D actual live play. We don't need to think more about that, but this very much felt like a Dungeons and Dragons quest. There's so much made-up lore, but the gods were so cool, and they were meddling, which is my favorite trope. There's this interesting romance between 2 characters that I do think I liked. Definitely has room for discussion between the 2, and the, I guess, in a way, a Fated Mate's take on a love situation, but I don't think it was bad. I actually like these characters. We are following Rhea. Is that her name? Rave? No, Rave. We're following Rave, who is an assassin, and I really liked her character. She was annoying at times. She very much just felt like things were happening to her, and she didn't really have a lot of agency, but yet I still liked her a lot, and I really liked this world. God, the world is so cool, and I think that's really what did it for me is just the world building, the inspiration that this gave me for the book that I've been working on this year. And so it's just like cool to see somebody do it. My biggest complaint and like why I don't think everyone will like this is the writing is difficult. She's made up so many words and not all of them are in the glossary at the beginning, so you're just kind of like, you're talking about a creature, but I have no idea what this animal is meant to be, and I'm very confused. There was a lot of that where it's just like fluff purple prose words that you're like, I don't know what these mean. And so once you get used to it, it kind of picks up and you're like, whatever, and you can just kind of gloss over it. But overall, I thought this was like such a cool world and premise, and the magic system and the gods were like top tier for me. So not a perfect book by any means, but I had a lot of fun with it and I really enjoyed my time, and I'm excited to continue the series. I don't think I have any interest in picking up the other book from this author, like their debut, I think, about the crystal book. I'm not interested in that, but I am excited about the series. So your girl read 2 nonfictions this month. Who is she? We should round of applause for me. So I read Unlikable Female Character by Anna Bogutskaya. I'm so sorry. Which is all about female characters in movie tropes and like their titles and what they stand for. This touched a whole lot on feminism and how these things influence the society that we all live in and how we see women. And I thought there was a lot of good discussions. I really liked hearing about this, but this author's specialty is movies. Like, that's what they've done. I think they write for movies. I think they went to like a film school potentially, like very much in movie culture, rather than analyzing it further. Like, it's not a super deep dive into these topics. It's a little bit more surface level. There was a lot of things that like really hit, but there was also a lot of filler that I just like, I'm not a big movie buff. I have not seen everything. A lot of the movies that she shouted out, I was like, I haven't seen it, sorry. And that's okay. I don't think it took away from my experience, but I kind of wish that we just took some of the conversations just a little bit further, especially talking about like queer, women of color, non-binary, just like a little bit more about like the societal pressures, standards, just a little bit deeper. But overall, I thought it was good. I think I gave it 4 stars. I did. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was good. Like, I'm definitely interested in picking up this author's next work. This was, I think, their debut. I saw on Goodreads their next book, and I am interested. It's not like something I'm going to jump hurdles to get to anytime soon, but it's definitely on my radar. And the other nonfiction novel that I read was Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. This is a memoir about Fern Brady being autistic and getting a diagnosis and just their life and getting to know themselves and their queer experience and societal what the heck is going on. It's just like Fern Brady herself also narrated the book. I thought it was good. It's definitely like got some grit to it. It's definitely raw and honest, and a story that I think is important. If an author feels inclined to share their story with people, like, kudos to you, that's great. But it didn't necessarily like give me a whole lot because I had no clue who this person was prior to this book. Like, I have no knowledge to their achievements in their career or anything, so it was very much just like I'm learning about a stranger. And that's fine. It wasn't like the most gripping book for me, but I still gave it 4 stars. I think the writing was nice. I think that the narration was good. It's a very like neat timeline of just talking about trials and tribulations. I have no complaints, but also like, how do you rate and talk about memoirs? I don't think I even rated it on Goodreads because it's weird to be like, I'm gonna give your life story a 4 stars. It's just strange to me. So I try not to like rate hard nonfiction memoirs, but yeah, I read that. I also read the poetry of Lewis Carroll by Lewis Carroll himself, the author of Alice in Wonderland, and these were just fun poems. I'm trying to teach myself how to write poetry again. I haven't done it since like middle school because we had to take this unit where this interesting character came to class and taught us how to write poetry and traumatized a whole bunch of us. But I was writing good poetry back then. I'm gonna toot my horn. For middle school, like, I wasn't bad, and I kind of wish that I stuck with it more. So I'm trying to retrain myself how to write poetry, and it's not as easy as I thought it would be. I was like, oh, yeah, this is easy. And then it's like, okay, what do you want to write about? And it's like, no thoughts, head empty. I can't. So anyway, I was reading poetry to introduce, poems to my life because that's something I've been interested in. Anyway, enough backstory. I read this. It's so fun. Lewis Carroll is such a quirky character. They're so funny. A lot of them are for Alice in Wonderland, set in that world. Like the oyster and the clams story in the Alice in Wonderland movie. They make features, and it was just fun. Like the Jabberwocky. There was some that were just incredible, and a lot that I just thought were fine. So I enjoyed my time. I think it was 3.5 stars. I don't know how to write poetry either, though. I enjoyed it, though. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fun. I laughed. Yeah, it was enjoyable. So, the next book that I listened to was a sequel. It was Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Oh, no. I was so optimistic when I read Assistant to the Villain. I was like, okay, this is a TikTok girl who does skits writing her first book for Red Tower, who infamously does not edit their books well. Or allegedly, maybe at all. Hard to say. And so I gave a lot of grace to this author. I was like, you're just starting. You're not working with a super strong, solid concept. She does skits where she would be a thirsty apprentice to this bad villain. She's tried to write that story where kooky things happen in this very whimsical world, and there's some elements of fantasy that I did enjoy, but it doesn't really have a strong fantasy feel. It could be set in modern day with a couple things changed and it wouldn't feel different. So I kind of just wish there was more to lean into the goofy, more to lean into the world. But I don't hate the story completely. My biggest complaint is just it didn't feel like there was any growth in the writing and storytelling. This really felt like a filler book. It was very will they, won't they, even though they have admitted time and time again how they love and care for each other. They just refuse to be together, and it just gets annoying after a while. The timeline and the beginning, I was so confused, at least for the first quarter, just solidly confused on what was going on, because it's been a year since I read Assistant to the Villain, and I was like, am I reading the same thing? I was just so confused. Everything was happening, and the timelines felt like they were crossing, and I was just not super invested. Every character has to have a romance in this. It's very romance first. It's very, oh, we're scheming stuff, but nothing felt serious. There weren't strong stakes in the book. It just felt very lacking from what I was wanting out of it and what I was hoping for. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Again, it's not a bad book, but it's definitely not worth purchasing. I didn't buy it. I'm not going to buy it. It was just not. There's so much potential for it to be so good, and it's just lackluster. Oh no, another lackluster. God, this one's disappointing, but Castle of the Curse by Romina Garber. This is the Owl Crate edition. They messed up my dust jacket, and so it doesn't stay on very well, and it's very flimsy. But gosh, what a pretty book. I love the stained glass windows. It's such a vibe. So, this is bad. Objectively, I don't think people will get a lot of joy out of this. My community on BookTube, the people that are reading similar things to me, or just reading a lot of things in general, I don't think you'll like this. I'll say it. But if you want to see how bad it is, and you want to do a hate read for it, I think you'll have fun. Just laughing at how absurd this book is. This book spans over 13 days. At some point, our main character does have her 18th birthday. So keep that in mind. This has been... I thought that this was an adult book going into it. And it has a lot of mature themes. It is almost teetering, could be... Honestly, you could plead a case that this is romantasy. But at some point along the way, I think it got changed or something to young adult, because that's what the author previously wrote. I don't know really what's happening with the market. I think the marketing has done an awful job. But I would also probably want to separate myself a little bit from this book because it's just not good. It's incredibly romance first, which is fine. I love romantasy, but she felt like a child the entire time. And even though she has her 18th birthday in the book, I glossed over that. I didn't catch on to that detail. And it just felt weird. I was like, this 12-year-old girl's doing what with who? I'm sorry, no. But basically, she's a young girl. Her parents die in a New York subway incident or something. Everyone's like, it's terrorists. And then she goes into like the foster system. Nobody super wants her. She finds out that she has this aunt who lives in this spooky manor. And there's this boy, and she's the only one that can see him. And so we've got a girl going through the trauma of the death of her parents and moving to a new location that's a haunted house where there's strict rules. Her aunt's like, you can't just like wander wherever. You can only go where I can say you can go. You can't have anybody over. Like, very secluded and isolating as she's like mute and going through trauma. But then she meets this boy and like she can talk again and everything's fine actually. And it's just like weirdly sexual. The twists felt like they came out of nowhere. It didn't have a lot of groundwork laid for the events that happened. I think that this had so much good potential. Like, the writing isn't awful. The gothic atmosphere was nice. I think, like, this really could have been better. It just, the romance really put such a bad taste in my mouth. The pacing was so god-awful. It just didn't work. It didn't work for me. I'm really bummed about it because I liked Lobizona a lot. And now I'm scared to even pick that series back up and finish it because, like, what if I actually hate it and I just forgot? But yeah, this put a really bad taste in my mouth. The romance was so horrible. My friend Melody and I have, like, the same reading taste. We rate everything we feel about the same on every book. And I saw that she was reading this and I was like, hey girl, we should talk while you read that. And we just ripped this to shreds because it was just, there was potential, but it was so bad. Just awful. Oof. Okay. Ooh, but the next book, I gave that 2 stars, by the way. The next book I read for the 4B's book club, hosted by Leah. Hosting with us was Richie, who I love and adore. They are my favorite person, not on the internet. And the 3 of us discussed Underneath by Lily Wong. And I will spoil you, you'll probably see this in my best of the years list. Now, I say that, and I'm clearly going to sing its high praises. I don't recommend this widely. I definitely recommend checking the trigger warnings. It's very, very heavy. It's very difficult to read at times, but it's written so beautifully and just in such a captivating way that I was so in love with it. It said so much, and it was just a perfect book to have a discussion about. And it's sad and heartbreaking. It's based on a true crime story that's not very well known, that Lily Wong, an Asian woman herself, is writing the perspective of like a white Southern woman who did awful killings of her children. It's not a nice, polite book. It's not easy to read. It's not any of those things. But if you like true crime, if you can handle dark and heavy topics, if the trigger warnings aren't something that will harm you personally, I do recommend. It's short. It's a really easy read. There's a lot of spacing, and there's like a 200 list in the middle just to like help you get through how awful things were. It does not really dive into the harm of the children. It's talked about, but it's not about that. It's not about what the kids went through. It's not like a graphic depiction of a true crime story. It's mostly talking about like how it's a lot of fat phobia. It's a lot of fat shaming. This was the setting of the true crime was like the 1950s to early 80s, I think. So that's like the scale. So it's very, I guess, of its time, like, if you will. Like, it feels very like set in the 50s with the fat phobia and everything. There's racism, there's harm to children, which is difficult and not easy, and I don't widely recommend it, but also it was just written beautifully, and there was just so much room for wonderful discussion. If you have no interest in reading this because it's hard and heavy, I will leave in the description our book club discussion about it, where we like talk in depth about everything. It's a little bit rambly, it's a little bit all over the place, but I think it was a really good discussion, and Richie is like beyond intelligent than I am, and so I always love hearing their thoughts on books because they're very good at like critiquing and analyzing and like reading critically, which opened me up to reading it that way as well. And it was a good discussion. It's fun. At the end, we stop talking about the book and start talking about fun things like F-Boy Island. Like, it's a wide range of time, but I do recommend it. I gave this 5 stars, hesitant 5 stars, with like big trigger warning, be careful, be cautious, not a widely spread book, but also it's not very well known. There was 83 readings on Goodreads when I picked it up. So, yeah, underneath, it's just a book that I just want to talk about. Like, I did buy the book, and I did give it to my mom, and she at some point will read it so we can discuss it, but she likes dark, twisted things, and I think that there's still a lot of, like, hope and levity? Is that the right word? A lot of hope and, like, it's not all just, like, sad and bad and depressing, but it is wild. It's a wild true crime case as well. Okay. Moving on. I did a little series, a little reading vlog, where I read the best debuts of 2024. These were the ones that I'd seen the most, had heard a lot of hype about, had seen around. And one of them was The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This was good. If you've read City of Stardust by Georgia Summers, it's kind of similar to that. It's kind of got a Starless Sea feel to it. The pitches that they had given were like the Midnight Library, which I can see, and the Night Circus, and then there was another one that I'm forgetting. Oh, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Those books are all kind of in like a weird subgenre together, and I do think this one fits with it, mostly Starless Sea and City of Stardust. But this is just a nice little book about a girl who works at a bookshop, makes coffees, she's living her dream, and she ends up inheriting this book, The Book of Doors, which has the magical properties for her to picture a place, open a door, and bada boom, she's there. She can teleport. And I think this has a really interesting take on that type of magic. I did enjoy it. It was hard for me to get into. It wasn't until about like the 50% mark where I was like, okay, I'm kind of like interested. I cried twice, even though I didn't love it. It wasn't like, I didn't care about all of the characters that lot. Wow. I didn't care too much about all of the characters, but I still had like a weird relationship to them where like once they started saying goodbyes, I started crying and I was like, I don't even care. It's not even that serious, but this hurts. There's also like a cool auction thing to it where like they auction the books and dangerous people come and things are happening, and I overall enjoyed it. It felt like 2 separate books from like the beginning to the end, but I did enjoy it overall. I think that it was a good story. It's a good debut. I definitely would check out future works from this author, and I do recommend this. I think a lot more people will get enjoyment out of it than I did, personally. That's not typically my genre, anyway. The next one that I read for that video was The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. This came out in January. Nope, it came out in May. And Haley Pham read it, and then it kind of blew up, and I saw it everywhere. So I did pick it for my book of the month, of course, and I read it. And I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it like everybody else. This is The Ministry of Time. It's a time travel book. They pluck people from different timelines who have died for whatever reason, like the 60s, the 80s, the 1800s, takes them and transports them to the future where they try to acclimate and live, and they are basically test subjects for time travel. She basically has like a weird relationship with the guy from the 1800s that's brought into her life. There's a lot of like wholesome relationships, especially between the different expats who were plopped into the current modern timeline. I liked seeing their relationships with each other and then bonding. The relationship between our 2 main characters together, though, it was a little weird. Just like a weird power dynamic, and it just felt like there was just like something off about it. Like something just didn't quite feel right about it. Most of the book is just like them day to day, fastly jumping through time to tell us how he's doing and how they're bonding and whatever. And you get to see a lot of like those small moments where like they get to bond and like they're slowly clicking. And this book I think is set over like a year or something, but the end is not what you would expect, and it just goes so off the rails and kind of becomes a thriller almost, and I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. I don't think this is a bad book. I don't think it's a bad debut. It's just not my bread and butter. This is also based in reality to some point. There was an expedition that went horribly wrong where people were trying to make a trade route from Europe to Asia and went up to Greenland, and then like their ship disappeared, everyone basically died, and like that's the guy who we plucked and like is historically a real person, and that's just like a little weird to me. And it's like we could have talked about this incident without like bringing in like the real letters with the real people. I don't know. It's an interesting... It happened. It's strange. I don't think this was bad. I don't like time travel. I don't like time travel in my books. The ending, although picks up in pace and gets weird and wacky, wasn't my favorite. But yeah, if you want full thoughts, you can always check out my video where I discuss it further, because that's all I need to say. Next one that I read was The Husband by Holly Gramazio, and I actually really like this one. I think this is my favorite of the 3 that I read, and it's not like, I don't think a lot of people necessarily like it as much as I did for some reason. It's repetitive. It's just this girl who suddenly has a magical addict, and her husband just shows up, and then if she doesn't like him, she can just say, go upstairs into the attic, and poof, a light happens, and a new guy comes out, and she has a different life. And it's wild. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense because it's not gonna ever happen to anybody, but I just loved seeing her journey through this. I loved seeing the exploration of relationships and finding herself and her family and friends, and it just like overall was interesting. I really enjoyed the ending. I don't know, it just worked for me, and I can't tell you why. Because I don't think a lot of people will necessarily love this one. I think a lot of people will probably be middle of the road on it because the writing's not anything super special, and again, it's not like there's not much plot to it. There's not a lot going on, but for whatever reason, I was very invested. The next thing that I read was Cat and Gamer Volume 5. This is the 5th volume of the manga series Cat and Gamer. I think Volume 6 might come out this month, which is exciting for me personally. This is just a cute little manga series about a girl who plays video games all the time, loves it. It's her whole bread and butter. And she also has like a separate office job, but one day a cat is brought into the office and she says, sure, I'll take it home. And she's never had a cat before, so she is learning how to care for cats and seeing it through the lens of a gamer who's like, oh, my cat is leveling up and my cat is learning new moves, and it's just fun. It's nothing serious. There's an addition of a second cat in volume 4. Spoilers. But it's a cute series. It's very wholesome. It's just like a quick, easy read. It doesn't take any brain cells. You can just fly through it. And I just have fun with them. Like, they're not doing anything special, but like, they're just a good time. Ooh, and the next one. The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. The controversial book. Oh my gosh. Apparently some sex toys were sent out from the publisher, which is St. Martin's, which, you know, they've had a rough year, and feel how you wish about St. Martin's. I will not hold anything against you, but yeah, so that controversy happened, I guess, around this book, which I didn't know until after this book was basically out, and that's wild to me. This is a sweet queer romance about 2 exes, childhood friends, to lovers, to exes, to, oh no, we booked the same trip at the same time through Europe, and now we have to be civil and kind of like be friends again and talk about what went wrong in the relationship and why they are where they are now, whilst you're also seeing them travel Europe. It's beautiful. Casey McQuiston wrote this so well. I was like, wow, I need a ex-lover that I also am still in love with to go on a backpacking trip almost. This is just it was so good for me personally. I love these characters, even if they were a little bit annoying and stupid at times, but like, I also kind of get it. They're young adults going through like a weird situation with each other and having a hard time expressing their feelings about the situation and each other. And I kind of get it. Also, I'm sorry I don't know the word. Somalite, is that it? Basically, one of the characters, Theo, wishes to become a sommelier, where like you talk about like the flavors in the wine and just the imagery of the food, the pastries, because Kit likes pastries and moved to France to become a pastry baker. Incredible descriptions of food and drinks and pairings. And when you go to a new location, and so you get little chapter headings every time you go to like a new location. So Paris pairs well with Elise Collins. Oh, I can't speak French very well. Les Millions de Blanc de Noirs, extra brut poured by a fluster waiter, brioche mousseline. So I butchered all of that because I'm not good at French, hence why I stopped learning it, because Spanish is easier for me. But you're getting these pairings for each location that they go to, and they're talking about the food and the pastries and the wine, a whole bunch. They also have like this little wager to see who can sleep with the most people in each location, but they're also like kind of in love with my ex who's here. It's just it's a little bit silly, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely big and chunky, and I don't know if it needed to be this long. But I historically am a Casey McQuiston fangirl. I love them. Their work always makes me happy, and I really enjoy the characters. This is the most steamy of the books, but I love these two. These two chaotic bisexuals, incredible. So fun. Ooh, the next book that I read was Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a horror novella. Very much pitched Eat the Rich. We're following a girl who is super into fashion. She goes to the thrift stores and recreates them into her new own style, and she loves fashion. And so she meets this boy whose mom is a very, 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 very big fashion designer. And she's like, what if I date him, make him fall in love with me so that I can meet his mom, get a good reference, and then bounce. So we've got some morally gray people in this book, but it only gets worse from here. She talks her partner, whose name I don't remember, into letting her go to like their Easter holiday, something of the sort, for like a little weekend getaway. She goes to this island where they live with all of the extended family there, and there might be a coup from the servants for being treated poorly, and it's insane. It's so good. It was a lot of fun. Very much like, I can't condone these actions, but I can probably turn a blind eye, especially in fiction. In fiction, I don't have to be okay morally, but it was definitely just very much Eat the Rich. This is very much getting what they deserved, and I had fun. It's gory at times. It's a survival story at heart. It's definitely interesting, and I had a good time. It's short and sweet and punchy. The next book was The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean, and I have a lot of mixed feelings. This is YA. I don't care how many people want to tell me this is adult. This is a YA book. Enjoy. This is almost cozy. I guess it is cozy. There's not a whole lot at stake, but we are following a girl who loves the phoenixes. This is a magical zoo where she works, and she gets to take care of the magical phoenix when poachers at a different zoo take their phoenix eggs, which it's very hard to breed phoenixes. So that's been a struggle lately, and so she's like, oh no, they're going to take my phoenix, who I love so dearly, to this new zoo to try and get them to reproduce more, and I would rather that not happen. So I'm going to send a letter so that they send their male phoenix to here at my zoo, and I can take care of them. And basically it launches this whole thing where everybody in the zoo is trying to help out. You've got a rivals to lovers sapphic relationship with the other girl in like the the bird group. They like things with wings. There's a little bit like a rivals to lovers arc because they had some beef from college and are not friends and don't get along very well. And there's also this boy who she has an interesting thing with, and I also enjoyed seeing that. It's nice to have like a book that's set over time and there's two relationships in it at the same time. You're like, wow, I'm learning so much about our character right now, and that I like. Also, the best friend Tawny, incredible. She was such a good friend, and we all need a Tawny in our lives. But overall, this book is way too long for what it is. It's incredibly predictable. You know exactly where the plot is going, what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what the ending will be. But at the same time, like, if you go into it thinking this is a cozy fantasy, it's nothing too serious, then you might enjoy it more than I did. I still think this is like a 3.5 or so. It very much gives a young adult love story, though, at its heart. But you also get this really cool magical zoo, which I love the idea of a magical zoo. That was like the whole thing. I really thought this was going to be a 5-star book for me. I'm sad that it wasn't. But I did enjoy my time. It's way too long for how predictable everything was. But I think it was sweet. I think it was cute. It did what it set out to do. And I think it did well. So that was The Phoenix Keeper. Not my favorite, but not horrible. Okay. We're down to the last two. If you saw yesterday's video, you know how I feel about Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. Oh my gosh. This was so fun. And I know this isn't going to be for everyone. This is romantasy. There is smut halfway through the book. It's kind of insta-lovey, but I also can excuse it for the purposes of the ending. Yeah, we'll go with that. I really had fun with this. I loved the setting, the atmosphere, the world building. You get to start the book with a hierarchy of paranormal beings, which is incredible, and I love that. The world building is so good. This is Caraval meets Danny Phantom meets The Princess and the Frog, New Orleans. It's such a good combination. This is also marketed to be pitched as Throne of the Fallen, which I haven't read yet, but I know that's about, like, the princes of hell and, like, the wrath and the sins. There we go. The 7 deadly sins. And so this kind of has that element too, and I get it. But, oh god, the trials in this were so good. I love trials in books. I don't care how simple they are, how boring they may be. Well, they can't be boring. They have to be entertaining. But they don't have to be, like, out-of-the-box ideas. Like, give me a reality TV show style trial and I'm gonna have a good time. The stakes were so high. The manor itself was such a good setting because this is a spooky haunted house put on by the demons and you have to compete in these deadly games, but at the same time, like, ghouls are gonna try and scare you in your sleep and make you forfeit because only one person can win, and that singular winner gets to ask the demon or the devil for, like, grant one wish, basically. So it's a very, like, esteemed prize. And a lot of people join for a lot of reasons. They have a lot of hardships. And this book just, like, did so much in such a... It's so... okay. Biggest complaint? Yes, this is a 5-star, but it's not, like, 5 stars, best book ever. This has a lot of issues, and I can see them. But I loved the experience of reading it. I had a lot of fun with it. The world, magic, everything. So fucking cool. But, god, is it steamy. Oh my gosh, we could have toned it down just, like, a little bit. I know this is, like, this author's first step into the romantasy, into the adult, which is fine. And, like, if you like steamy books, this will be great for you. But there was, like, a little bit too much for me where it was like, okay, there was, like, so much happening, right? And we could be focusing on the mystery a little bit more and stop fucking, right? Okay, so that was my biggest complaint. But overall, the setting of this was fantastic. The fact that Danny Phantom was part of the inspiration for this book, that's all you need to know. Chef's kiss. Beautiful. The last and final thing, which I don't think I'm going to talk about a whole lot because I genuinely don't know how I feel still. I'm really looking forward to Kayla's live show where they talk about this, so I can hopefully know where my head is at just a little bit more. But this is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is literary first, mystery second, I would say. This book is way too fucking long. This is almost 500 pages, and for what? I don't care about rich people. I don't care about rich people's drama. The build-up for the ending twist is such... It's not satisfying. It doesn't feel like a worthy payoff at the end. It felt standard and a little bit boring and just lackluster. If you've read Middle of the Night and you know how that ends, they're not obviously the same book. So, like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's the exact same. It's not the same. But they feel the same when you get to the ending. How if you're like me, you read it and you're like, that's it? That's all we're doing? It had that feel where you're just like, okay, we could have done something more here, and we didn't. This is set kind of at a survival summer camp for kids. We're following so many characters, and there's only one narrator for the whole book, who I don't think did a great job, because one of our characters is 23 Louise, and she sounded like a chain smoker who was 55, and I was like, girl, this is not the right narrator for this book with this many characters. It just didn't work for me. But basically, we're following the disappearance of this girl, Bethany, who came to the camp. It seems maybe a little bit trouble, is kind of the star of everybody's attention. She goes missing, and we can't find her. And we also learned that in the past, her brother went missing. And so there's weird dots and connections going on, and people are very confused in trying to find this girl. And that's like the heart of the story. Like, her being gone is the mystery. That's what's going on. But you wouldn't remember that most of the book that you're reading. This is so long, and for what? It makes me so mad. Like, this did not need to be so long, because you're just bouncing to different characters, getting to know the backstories, but I just didn't care. I could not care. I fell asleep twice while reading this. I don't normally do that. I fell asleep twice, and I was just like, I'm so bored. It's just so long, and for no good reason. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what people think, because I think this is a book that Allie could actually enjoy, because Allie leans more to like the literary side. I don't think this was weird enough for her to love, but I think she could at least like it enough. But yeah, it's felt like a waste of time, to be honest. It didn't work for me. I don't get the point of it. The ending wasn't satisfactory. It felt very unfocused from the plot. Like, there's a missing child. She's like 13 years old or something. And that's not like the biggest focus of the whole book. And it's not like a big deal. It's just kind of like, yeah, we'll find her. We're investigating. We're making our way downtown. But the investigator, oh my god, annoyed me so much, because like everything just was so convenient. People would just like go missing, or just like show up and be like, oh yeah, we'll talk to you and tell you everything. But also, no, we can't. We have to lie and keep secrets. And I'm just like, oh god, talk to the cops. Get this book over with, please. So yeah. Disappointing end to the month. It wasn't a win. And so chunky, and I don't agree. I'm so sick of chunky books. But that's everything that I'm going to talk about in this video. There's obviously more that I have read, but we'll hear all about them throughout the month of October. So I hope that you enjoyed this little... Well, it's not very little, is it? It's probably very chunky. I'm so bad at concise, quick wrap-ups. Maybe in October we'll do like the 1-minute challenge where I can only say a minute review. Maybe that'll help. But yeah, I'm a chatter. I like to talk books. Welcome to my YouTube. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys tomorrow for another reading vlog, if I finish that book. And I will see you guys then. Goodbye. Bye. I'm so bad at closing this out. Bye.